Hey YouTube, Pat here again. In the series of MCP new servers, MCP a day keeps the doctor at bay. That's what I'm calling it. But I might only do a few more of these because there aren't that many tools that I really want to use. But the latest and greatest one, this one that we're going to go over today, is GitHub. So you saw me hook up the file system before. So here we go. Let me just show you what happened so far. So my directory structure was such that I guess I don't know if I can easily show this. So just open up the whole folder. It's going to be a little small, but so inside of Anthropic, I decided to make a folder called GitHub Family. So before I had made a family tree, and so now I wanted to make a simple GitHub around this, and you could see this is just a very simple. At first, I went into the repo and I just initialized it. So I did a git init, and I initialized the repo. That's all I did. So I just started with like an initial GitHub repo, and then from there, let's go back to the beginning. So let me scroll up to the top. So I basically asked it if it could see the GitHub repo that I initialized in the directory. So it listed the directory, found Anthropic Fun, saw that I had created a directory called GitHub Family Fun, or what did I call this? GitHub Family, because I wanted to make the family tree. So it got that. Then I see there's a directory called GitHub Family. Let me check its contents. Yes, I can see that there is a Git repo initialized in the GitHub Family directory, as indicated by the presence of Git. Would you like me to help you work with this repo? And I said, I would like you to create a repo for this in my GitHub called GitHub Family and write any files locally before pushing to the remote repo. Create a GitHub action. The GitHub actions are basically just a way for GitHub to run things for you. Create a GitHub action that will, on new pushes to main, the main branch, deploy the changes to GH-pages, which is GitHub pages are an easy way to host websites. I see all these like AI videos of people using these like external weird tools that like they just need a static website hosted. So GitHub Pages is actually really easy. And anyway, so you can set up an easy workflow with a GitHub action, just push to a page so you have your website. You don't have to use these like weird third-party tools. Anyway, after that, just make a simple web app that will display an entire family tree of mom, dad, son for now. You can just use basic shapes, circles connected with lines. So just a simple, easy HTML page. Create this simple HTML along with the .yaml file, YML file for the GitHub Actions. So GitHub Actions will use YAML files as like, declarative ways of stating action, and push all these changes to main. And then I say, I'll check your results, but if you run into any issues along the way, like if you use the wrong node version or something like that, don't just tell me, create a GitHub issue in the repo. You don't need to solve the issue. I just want a trail of errors. I will still respond to you and we can work through the issues. Good luck. So then now Claude took over. And so I'll help you with this step by step. First, let's create the repo. So it was able to create the repo. That's fine. Now let's create our web apps. So then it actually had a problem. It tried to write these files. It was able to write it to the file system, but then also create a directory for the GitHub Actions workflow. So all locally, it's doing this, create a .github directory. So it's all local. It's doing what it needs to do to set up the GitHub action, creating directories, writing files, all that. Now let's create an issue. So hang on a second. I think as we develop this family tree, adding node, specifying node version, adding the package, this is a preemptive issue. Oh, this is a preemptive. So it just made its own stupid issue just for fun. And now it's supposed to push everything to the repo, but here's the problem. It tried to just basically get everything it needed. So it tried to like take all the different files and then push them up to GitHub. But then there was an error. So then it was like, maybe we need to set up the repo first. Let me create an issue. So it did create an issue in GitHub, which I did. I can circle back to later the issues. It actually did create issues and put them into GitHub, which was cool. Because in a real software environment, like you run into an issue, you'd post it in GitHub. You wouldn't just like, keep it all in this Claude chat that someone's got to go back to and it'd be a pain in the butt. Like I'm going through it right now, like as it would be like if I had to do what I'm doing on an actual software project, it would be a huge pain in the butt to just scroll through all the Claude logs. No, no, thank you. So anyway, let me try to push the files one by one, starting with the README, and then it screwed up again. So it tried to push just a simple README, and it's like, we're having issues, and then we're having issues. So at that point, it says, we're having issues, and it screwed up. And he's like, but here's what we accomplished. We did create the repo, created some files, created issues, created the basic structure. We can't push files to GitHub. We can't set up the initial repo, and we can't configure GitHub pages. And then it's like, would you like me to try to do something else? So this is when I stepped in and I said, it's possible that we screwed things up by doing things locally first. Let's remote add the repo. So even though the repo exists in GitHub remotely, and there's a repo initialized locally, the problem is they're not connected. So essentially it was like, yeah, add the remote repo. So we added the remote repo. And then after that, then like I could see that it was added. And then it said, would you like me to help the next steps? I said, yep, now that it's added, try to push the contents. So like now the files locally should be able to be added to the remote repo on GitHub. So it ran into this and then it said, I'll try to push them. And then it did it. And then we pushed the files. Hooray. And we got the commit hash and everything. So everything was good. It pushed. And then now it said the GitHub Actions workflow should automatically trigger. But there was a problem. So I don't know if this is the one. They basically weren't able to do the GitHub Actions was a kind of annoying. Like go to repo settings, verify the deployment once GitHub Actions. Okay, so this was me. I think I stepped in at this. Right. It actually mentioned this inside the tool. So it couldn't deploy with GitHub Actions. It couldn't deploy the GitHub pages because you actually need to go into the UI, and even says it out here. Go into the UI, then go to enable GitHub pages, and then after that, set the source branch to GitHub gh-pages. And then you could start to do this. So even though I told it to do this, it can't do it itself. So this tool doesn't have the particular means to go into the repo and actually go into the GitHub action. So just for people that need to, I'll delete that API key later. People that need to go into GitHub pages, they would go here into GitHub. So this is the actual repo. I guess I can show you the issues right now. So when it was going along, see, it gave the GitHub family tree, a simple web-based family tree, pure HTML, blah, blah, blah. Who cares about the README? But these are the issues that it was hitting along the way. So these are kind of cool. So essentially, it even labeled the issues like bug, documentation. This is what we need to do. Like here's documentation for how to set up GitHub pages. So it knows how to set up GitHub pages. And this is not me commenting. This is the bot. To complete GitHub pages setup, we need to go to repository settings, which is up here, pages, and then set the source branch. I already did it, so it's kind of like there's already, if I scroll down to pages here, that's how you set up GitHub pages. Deploy from a branch, GitHub pages root, save. That's all you need to do. You just need to, so normally it would be on main, but you need to actually create a branch called gh-pages and then set that as your deployment branch. So then the GitHub action will work and you're able to actually deploy. But what was I going to say? And then this is the YAML for like how the deployment actually works. So it goes through, and anytime I push to the main branch, it's going to set up a new deployment and it's going to deploy to GitHub pages. And you can actually, I'll put this in the description. But you can actually go to this page. So if I go back to settings, and you can get to this other ways, but this is just one way to get it. Go back to pages. You can see the site's there. I made it like a couple hours ago. And let's just open a new page. So here's our deployment. Mom, dad, son. So the the family tree thing worked. But the main thing is that this is all done from Claude. So uh, after we fixed the issue, we were then able to push to Claude because I told it there was no GitHub Pages branch, and that's the default. They got to reconfigure things, and then so it created that branch, which was good. Then it updated the workflow, and then it was still having an issue. So I had to go in and click on the UI and do that. And after I did that, then I was able to fix the problem. So, yep, I heard you. I heard you. Just give me 1 minute. Yep. So, okay. Yep. So anyway, so my daughter's got to poop. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up. But essentially, uh, it wanted to push the changes itself, or it wanted me to push the changes, like just add the workflow, commit it. And I said, wait, you can add files and commit. Like it forgot that it could use GitHub to add stuff. So that's the one thing I want to call out as well, is that the LLMs kind of forget that it has certain tools. It's like, ah, yes, you're right. Let me try to push this update directly. So then it did push the workflow, and then after that, then the page was working. So that's using GitHub, using the GitHub tool to create like a simple web page with GitHub pages and kind of go from there. So I'll add more to this later, but my daughter's got to poop, so I'll be back at some other time.